afternoon to you, our dear esteemed viewers. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Youth Roundtable. My name is Douglas Onen, and I'm joined by very interesting young men and women who will help us, of course, unpack the conversation that relates to the state of multi-party dispensation in this country, but also we pay a tribute to Raila Odinga, whose life unfortunately came to an end on 15th October. But of course, his life has had a huge impact in the politics of Kenya, but also his life is significant to very many young people in the East African region. So join me, first of all, welcome my guest, but also pay tribute to the family, but also to the people of Kenya for the loss of Honorable Raila Odinga. But in no particular order, allow me go ahead and introduce my guests, and we get straight to the conversation. Allow me begin from my extreme left. Of course, the person looking directly to me, Mr. Kwesiga Emmanuel. Kwesiga Emmanuel is a lawyer, but as well as an author. You're most welcome. Very happy to have you here.
Thank you, Drake. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you very much. Right next to Mr. Kwesiga Emmanuel, we are joined by Mr. Amanya Kennedy. Amanya Kennedy is the 91st GRC of Persons with Disabilities at Makerere University. Most welcome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ray.
Thank you. Very happy to have you here. Right next to Mr. Kennedy, we are joined by Miss Iliama and Deborah. I hope that is right.
Yes, you're right.
We are very happy to have you here. Thank you. Right next to Ms. Iliama, we are joined by Mr. Mwebesa Reagan. Mwebesa Reagan is a former guild president at Chambongo University. Very happy to have you here, sir.
It's always a pleasure to be here, sir.
Thank you. Last but not least, we are joined by Mr. Wamono Isaac. Mr. Wamono Isaac, very happy to have you here. DP Youth Leader.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right. Allow me to begin with you, Kwesiga. The conversation today anchors on two grounds. The first half of the show, I would like us to, of course, dive and talk about the state of multi-party politics in our country today. A lot is happening ahead of 2026 general elections. A few weeks ago, we saw parties such as Forum for Democratic Change, Alliance for National Transformation, National Unity Platform, the National Resistance Movement, come up with their manifestos, telling Ugandans the aspirations they have for the people of Uganda. But besides that, a lot is still happening. The members of parliament are preparing for their nominations. The presidential candidates, of course, their nominations are supposed to come to an end. There's just a lot going on. But we know the birth of multi-party dispensation dates back after the referendum of 2005 that gave a rebirth to the multi-party dispensation. But we are here today facing numerous challenges. Just give us context to this conversation, because there's a lot to cover under the multi-party dispensation in this country with what is going on. Emmanuel.
Thank you so much, Drake. I'm delighted to take the precursor. Now, talking of a multi-party system, in a way, we talk about the Constitution. And that by default demands us to make a brief context to our constitutional history. We understand for a fact that our constitution was as a result of the UCC and of course the CA, the Uganda Constitutional Commission, led by RIP now, Benjamin Doshi Justice, that carried out mass engagement, national involvement, seeking for the views of the citizenry in regards to what they thought best fitted them in terms of leadership and of course political leadership, the land tenure system and the likes. And of course those views were collected and discussed by the CA, that's the Constituent Assembly, under the chairmanship of James Wapakablo, if I am right to that extent. That is how we get to have our constitution, and of course on 8th November 1995 we have it assented to by the president, and we have our constitution. But just before that, still we see that the question of political systems was a very contentious matter under the Constituent Assembly, because we understand that from our political history, we had a sort of a cocktail of political systems. And so the discussion then was what political system best benefits our country. And if I remember the wordings of John Asasira, Honorable John Asasira, he did suggest and he put it succinctly clear that discussing the question of political systems in the country is not a political engagement and it's not a rally. And of course, under that, he called for a fact that they needed to put their minds clear and come up with the most suitable political system, because we understand that this is, of course, very pertinent for any country. So the resolution was that the country should still have the movement system for the next 5 years. So after that, in 2005, like Drake did suggest, did put, we had a referendum, and the citizens agreed, because there were mixed feelings and mixed responses in regards to what political system is good for us. So realizing that the people that needed the movement system, but also alongside those that needed the multi-party system, the resolution was to have the two embedded in the same constitution, and of course that would reflect in national political practice. I hope we are together to that extent. Mm-hmm. This is reflected in Article 69 of the Constitution about the political systems in the country, where you have the multi-party system, the movement political system, and any other. I think that's 59 paragraph, I think, C, around there. So we have all of these captured in the same constitution. So I think Article 70 provides for the movement system. So we have that clearly put in the constitution. Article 71, multi-party system. 72 tells us that even when you do not align to any party, still you can participate actively in the Ugandan politics. Of course, that provides for, that's why we have independent candidates, those that are not leaning to any political party. This gives you an illustration that our political ecosystem is a conglomerate of a variety or a broad spectrum of political views and of course ideologies. Now, very lastly, to seal that, Article 75 did prohibit a one-party state. I mean, it did say that there is never going to be a point where you only have one political party. Maybe that can only be at the discretion of where no other person has wanted to form their own or to participate in any other provided for political direction. But that was prohibited, and so it is true, I affirm, that we have a multi-party political system that we operate in. That gives context. I do not know if at this point I need to proceed and equally give my
opinion,
my view.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, I must agree that it is very important and good for there to be a diversity of views, reflected in different operations or space of operation. Because then the presumption at that point is that the political system that seems viable in the present circumstances stands the chance before the citizenry and definitely would take lead. So we need this. In fact, for any other person to be competent, or even a country, there must be some sort of competition and sort of rivalry. Because even at national and international level, as a country, you do not want your neighbors to be better than you are. Same applies to when you have different political systems. One who belongs to the movement system wants to indeed show you as a country that in their individual capacity and merit, they are the best suited to take up the political space. Same applies to those that are aligned to the different political parties like we have. So it's good, prima facie, or on the face of it. The face value is that this was a very good move and very commendable. But the question then is, given the present circumstances, what are our views? What are our reactions about the same? And for me, as an individual, I think given my assessment of the political space I think I've been observant for the last 5 years. That's when I've been very much concerned about national matters. It appears to me that this is only something that is meant to hoodwink Ugandans. At this point, if I were asked to take a vote, I would prefer most likely the movement system, individual merit.
All right. Thank you.
I hope that along the discussion, I can be able to state my position once again and give reasons why. But at this point, the idea of multi-party system, it doesn't seem a best fit for me, at least at this same point.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. From that background, Reagan, I'm quite interested in understanding. He says the multi-party dispensation is much more one that is used, in his opinion, to hoodwink the masses and would opt for a movement system. Now, this would bring us to have a conversation around, of course, understanding that it has its highs and lows. So my question to you would then be that, do you think that the multi-party dispensation has genuinely deepened Ugandans' participation in governance? Or in your opinion, you think it has simply entrenched elite competition for power?
Thank you, Greg. You know, being a Ugandan, I have lived to appreciate why they call us a developing country. It spans beyond what we see. Definitely, a multi-party system can function best when the players are serious people and serious elements. You know, it's extremely saddening because a multi-party system is meant to bring out ideas, the right ideas, and it's a contestation of ideas.
True.
Normally, the biggest opposition party, for example, the National Unity Platform, is supposed to keep the government in check. But in a Ugandan context, where you have the ruling government and an opposing government whose main ideology is character assassination,
True.
you do not have a functioning multi-party system. When we draw our eyes back and look at an opposition in 2016, for example, you would clearly see that the FDC, the Democratic Party, had valid reasons why they said, we are not in the movement party, we are not in NRM, for our reasons. Not for the reasons that we clearly see recently of a beautiful first lady, of we have showed the dictator. Uganda needs to think beyond. So I think the multi-party system is supposed to be good when the people opposing government or keeping government in check don't treat government as an enemy, but they channel ideas through the rightful channels. It is very saddening that very many Ugandans are currently hoodwinked on grounds of tribe. Very many parties are strong in specific regions and have literally no structures in others. You know, I in one of our shows in the past talked of how the National Unity Platform in 2021 had literally no agent in Bujumbura, where I come from. But this was one of FDC's main strongholds, where you find that the structures only span in a region. Currently, Ugandans, in quotes, are misguided that we are operating in a multi-party system. But it's more like a movement system. Because look at the structures of leadership, specifically spanning from the village. Very many parties are not represented there. Take it to the youth politics. Right from the LC1, youth leadership, to the national level, even these ones who won national youth council, you cannot see almost any other party.
There is no any other party, it's all NRM.
It's only NRM. And it is simply because, yes, the constitution gave a provision that very many elite people are overriding and undermining and using to confuse the masses. So I'm not so far away from what my brother Kwesiga has said, but I may slightly give a provision that if we have serious players on board, like what we see in Kenya, people who reason and the government even extracts ideas. The most recent thing that has shown me that actually Ugandans are much better than us having these systems that confuse us is a saga of the Football League and how you saw people giving opinions that actually counted. Very many people are aligning themselves with the wrong elements, with the wrong parties on grounds of an opportunity that they think they may not get in the NRA. So we have those very many countless opportunists who come on board, mislead Ugandans, yet in actual sense, they know very well that
Just on that
none
point,
of the
Reagan,
above makes
you,
logical
you,
sense.
you assert and say opportunists, and I would like to zero down on that word and relate it to the current context. I've had conversations with very many young people, and their argument is, at the moment, they see no viable party to make them win an election besides the National Resistance Movement. That is one argument. Two, there is no any other party, in their opinion, that has structures, community structures, like the National Resistance Movement. So there's that assertion, or there is that belief that for you to win a youth election, you need to come through the ranks of the National Resistance Movement, even when you do not believe in their ideology. Does then that justify the element of an entrenched elite system that also in the way one or the other brings in young people who at the end have no option but to go with the system that is already in place?
But Drake, what does that have to do with elitism? Why then don't you simply call it an NRM kind of approach? Where does elitism come in? That has nothing to do with elitism.
There is actually literally no elite as part of that. You see, the biggest challenge I have with our Ugandan context, I don't know, I may sound a bit rude. When you look at the kind of citizens that lead the Republic of Kenya, look at Martha Karua, look at Rigathi Gachagua, look at the kind of individual that is standing up to say, no, let us keep this government in check. Look at, rest in peace, Raila Odinga. These are people who, besides politics, have a very stable life. And here comes a Uganda where people even stand against government to mobilize government to fund their ideas, stand against government to source money from donors. So I understand the story the youth are trying to trade that it's only NRM, but I won in institutional politics against the strongest opposition party, and I didn't align anywhere to the opposition party. So I think the only option the youth have is the thought of growth politically, because they realize NRM is here to stay. It's not about to corrupt its structures. So even when I go through as an independent in youth structures, I may really struggle at a national level when I want to stand against an NRM.
Okay.
So that's why they align earlier, such that even their way to national politics, specifically elective politics, not just youth politics, is easier. But at the end of the day, I think we are just raising a very wrong society, a wrong society of young people who fall where the shade is, but forget to know that the shade evolves during the day. Where my shadow is in the morning is not where it shall be definitely in the evening. We always have that cross. So as the political environment of Uganda keeps changing, very many leaders, even in the NRM itself, shall come up with multiple ideas that may even suffocate the youth themselves. You know, when we talk about multi-party politics, leadership, and representation, I think the youth are not right to say they are represented.
Okay, let me just hold you there and bring in Anne. Honestly, Anne, Reagan and Emmanuel in the submission seemingly say we at the moment don't have any sort of multi-party dispensation in practice. What we do have, it's something that is there in just words, but in reality, it's more like of a movement system. The primary essence of multi-party dispensation is to offer alternatives. And in offering alternatives, there is an objective of accountability. And I think my question to you is going to center on the grounds that has this system, the multi-party system, shaped governance and accountability in this country? Let's maybe first look at from where we have come from. Has it in any way offered, has it shaped accountability and governance in this country? Or you think, in your opinion, we are way off from the realities?
Thank you so much. When you look at issues of party politics, in 2005, where this issue was brought, or when it was reformed, the main aim was to promote fair elections or competition. As Aaron Reagan had talked of competition, that there should be healthy competitions. Now, still in his talk, he said that if there is no competition, then the ruling party cannot be put in place. And therefore, it was necessary to be put in place that we have the multi-party system. But when you look at the multi-party system, it's not working well due to the different ideologies in these parties. They came together in order to have harmony and to have a healthy competition. But when you look at now these parties that are competing, or let's talk of the NO, let's talk of the NRM as a movement, let's talk of the FDC. This multi-party system was supposed to have broad freedom to the people, to have a fair competition. But when you look at the current situation of Uganda, I don't see any freedom. I don't see freedom in Uganda because the opposition parties are not given their rights. They are always tortured, they are always arrested, beaten, and so I don't look at it as an idea that has been achieved in Uganda.
Right.
And so it doesn't show that there is a good accountability in our system. Now, when you look at the most people in government that are corrupt, or people who are corrupt, are these officials who are in government. Look at the MPs, and you see what they're getting. They get more than what other people outside are getting. And we find that we say we cannot fund other sectors because the money is less in the government. And yet, people who are in government are the ones that are investing in these funds. How do you think that these people can be freely accountable for our country, and yet they're the ones that are embezzling these funds? Therefore, I don't see any clear accountability of the country in terms of politics, in terms of funds, in terms of our education system. 2 weeks ago, I happened to listen to the conversation that was taking place in the parliament, whereby Honorable Joy raised an issue of teachers, arts and humanities, where these teachers are underlooked at. And to me, I look at teachers as the backbone of this country. I was asking myself, if we're to say that we're doing away with the teachers of humanities, can the science teachers then write for us the proposals? Can they guide this country? Can they lead, since they're involved in this kind of equations calculations. We need the ideas. Yes, they can invent an idea, maybe on issues of medication, maybe on issues of this technology. But as far as I'm concerned, I see that even the teachers of arts and humanities are doing the same. And so his suggestion was, let us make a budget and increase the what? The salary of these teachers. And the speaker asked him, what do you think we can do? As the informed citizen of the country, he was able to say that there are these budgets, the supplementary budgets that we bring. Can we use this money to fund the country, the teachers, so that we can have the teachers on board, so that we can have peace at our country? Because now, if we are not to bring our people, because the main issue, the main reason of leadership is to bring our people at peace. As he said that we are far better other countries.
Right. Let me just hold you there and bring you Kennedy. The student's perspective is very crucial. Makerere University as a strong pillar of education in this country. Historically, yes, historically it has had a very strong ground in grooming leaders. Yes, in the region. And on that premise, I am very much interested because we know recently the Vice Chancellor did away with, he did away with, first of all, identifying with political parties. That's one. But also, two, the idea that students could go ahead and identify with these political parties was something that was greatly against. In trying to nurture the next generation of leaders, discussing multi-party politics from a national view is very important and imperative. But also from the student perspective, in terms of grooming students to be leaders of the tomorrow or leaders of the now, is also very crucial. So my question to you would then be from that angle of a student whose experience has largely been in an institution that at the moment is also not experiencing or has possibly experienced the multi-party dispensation. From where you sit, from the student's perspective, what is the view or the argument that the students would make?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Drake, for the for the concern, most especially about the Makerere University politics. And as you are all aware, all constitutions in this country, in institutions and any other organizations, operates based on the main constitution of Uganda. So I can assure you, Mr. Drake, and the fellow guests, that even when at Makerere University, the Vice Chancellor tried to go away with the political parties in Makerere University politics, while campaigning and while choosing the leaders, you will identify that Mr. Drake is aligning with NRM. I'm sorry to say that. And Mr. Reagan is aligning with NUP, because when you reach in Makerere during the political season, like we are going in next semester, you will hear that at the NUP headquarters in Kavure, they are fronting the candidate, they are voting. And it is publicly done. You will hear that the NRM, they have fronted this candidate, and it's everywhere. You will hear that in Makerere University, maybe auditorium, the chairman for NRM, Makerere University chapter, is swearing in. You will hear that the certain professor is the patron of NRM. So, Mr. Drake, I don't think even when the Vice Chancellor have tried to go away with political parties, in that perspective, I don't think it has been achieved, to my understanding. Because if the party, personally, I have the party where I belong and in Makerere.
Okay, just hold you there. Yes, sorry for the
Yes.
interjection. I seek to have information. Which is the state of affairs? Do you still stand, for example, for presidency under parties, or it is only implied that you as students know that person X aligns to this political party, but it isn't explicit?
We as students, what we know and what the constitution of Makerere today, as per today, we don't stand aligning with political parties.
Okay.
But when you enter in the internal structure of the students' body, you will see the political parties fronting candidates.
Can I just maybe get this right? I think maybe I'm not so far away from the clarity that my friend Kwesiga seeks to get. Because I think from what he's saying, they align, but in practice, they don't brand themselves.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, that is the thing.
I think that's
Yeah, because you will hear that they look pro the candidate, maybe it's the leading candidate. Yes, and you will see them voting.
Okay.
The media will
So
say
in the
that.
branding, he will not put the
Yes, you will
signage.
not put the sign of
but
umbrella,
have
you
the
will put the
colours.
bus. Yes, but the colors will be there.
So,
Yes.
okay. I think that gives us a broader reflection of
That's
what it's an interesting component that we shall also.
But
Very.
It's an interesting component.
but then maybe my submission on the multi-party politics in this country, like my brothers and the sisters have said, our multi-party politics in Uganda, it's like when you go in a school, you study, you do coursework, but at the time of submission and doing exams, you appear nowhere. It is maybe to the disappointment today that we have not seen the candidate of DP. Yes, I don't know whether you have seen. I've not seen one. And because if you see that it started long way before, one of the best parties in Uganda, and today we are almost ending nominations.
Right. Let me just hold you there and bring in the DP.
Okay.
That's exactly why I wanted to
Just in
engage.
the hotspot.
You see, multi-party dispensation, I said, it's a system where we share ideas, and we are supposed to, the essence of having various numerous parties is which idea precedes the other, or which one offers an alternative that best suits the status quo of a particular country. And among the prerequisites of a political party is to have, of course, a flag bearer and someone to go ahead and stand on those ideas. But we all know that the Democratic Party doesn't have, at the moment, a flag bearer who is going to be representing the party. But as well, we know there is a cooperation agreement between the Democratic Party and the National Resistance Movement. But my question to you particularly is, my brother Isaac, do you genuinely think that multi-party system has... my interest to you is going to be on the issue of the rise of coalitions. Has it affected the Democratic Party? Because you, of course, at the moment, with the existence of a cooperation agreement, one or the other, it's more like a marriage that you're working together on particular grounds. Has that marriage neutralized among the oldest parties in this country? And does that therefore signify or reflect the failure of multi-party dispensation in this country?
Yeah, thank you, Onen, for that question. I would say coalitions they're not bad, as in a sense. But at the end of the day, whom are you making a coalition with? It should be the best question, the serious question you should ask yourself. Because in most cases, conflicts are being solved by coalitions or dialogue. But whom are you making whom are you making a coalition with? That should be a question. Because at the end of the day, there should be honesty between the two parties who are making a dialogue or who are making a coalition. But unfortunately to our case of DP, I think we made a coalition with someone who is dishonest, according to me.
That's your opinion?
Yes, that's my
it's
opinion.
Not a position of the party.
No, I would say, DP content right now is I think it's one of the most divided party in Uganda, because we have those who are Team Mau and those who say they are Team DP Great Again, the one that's being led by Honorable Sebamala. So, and all this came forth because of coalition. Because I was talking about honesty. when you look into the document of the cooperation agreement, one of the principles that they talked about was electoral reforms, and the CA was meant to last for 4 years, from 2022 to 2025. It's expiring this year. Have we had any electoral reforms?
None.
No, none. So which means that's why I'm telling you we went into a coalition with someone who is dishonest. And
It
wait,
was
I'm
just
coming.
on Monday,
I'm coming.
where Minister Mao tabled a motion in the floor of Parliament advising to have certain special interest groups expanded.
No.
So could that amount?
My issue is, so how about the 4 years that we have been in the CA? What has he been doing? Why didn't he table it during the first year, the second year, the third year? So you wait when the CA is about to end is when you raise. And President Museveni Chairman Mao talked of, and another principle talked about was the peaceful transition of power. And President Museveni has on several occasions denied that. We have been seeing this. And I think coalitions are good, but whom are you making a coalition with? To our case, I think we made a coalition with the wrong person, and it has affected DP.
But isn't that the game of politics? Because the game of politics,
it's a game of politics. But at the end of the day, DP Uganda was a stronghold of DP. But now after a coalition, where is it now? We don't even hope to raise even 5 MPs from Uganda, and it was a stronghold of DP, and this all came forth because of a coalition. The members are disgruntled, disgruntled, and nobody, you even feel ashamed of associating yourself with DP in Uganda, because the first question will be, what are you telling us, because you're in the government already? Like just some few weeks back, Chairman Mao himself made a statement that we are not going to have a change of leadership through an election. He said that. Am I lying? So you are in a multi-party dispensation where political parties are given the freedom to contest, and for you as a justice minister, you're saying you cannot get another leadership through election. So what is that?
Did he really say that?
Yes, he said that. Didn't you see? He said that we shall get through new leadership through dialogue, through meetings, but not through elections.
No, but I think history actually justifies this statement.
Yes.
If you see the leadership that came after the Amin regime, the presidents that came therein were all presidents that came through dialogue until Obote too. So in terms of his statement that he makes, it's justified because we have seen some presidents in our history coming through that.
Yeah, it to some extent.
Because Museveni himself participated in the coming into power of Binaisa.
And my point is, to some extent, can be justifiable, but President Museveni has on several occasions denied that. He has denied it. So for you, you're in a coalition with someone, but someone is repeatedly denying that.
All right, let me just hold
So what does it mean?
I think if we talk about DP and I don't make a comment, I may go home and fight with the walls. I'm one of I think the last or the most recent standing batch of the members of the Uganda Young Democrats.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm still stuck in there is because there are principles, standing principles that have lasted 70 years now. I think 71 as of this year. So I really wish that many Ugandans should be guided that in as much as our President General is a very vocal voice in our society, some of those ideas are his ideas. Let us not look at an entire party as one person. The days we were very chaotic students at Chambogo University, I remember the words that were said to me, and they still reflect in my head. Chambogo is bigger than you. You found Chambogo, you will leave Chambogo. So very many people, we want to trade hope to other people, especially those who feel like DP is on its way out. That we still have very many young ideas that are in the pipeline. So in the coming years, we shall come in as a leadership of that party and with very brilliant ideas, as you can tell of when Chairman Mao was a young man. He was not. I think all that is happening is as a result of realizing that we have tried so much, but in the wrong field. So let's, in as much as most of what he says ends up being the position of the party, I don't know how, but let us also not be conclusive and say it is exactly the position of the party, because we have multiple leaders in the party who have divergent ideas from what he's saying most of the times. So moving forward, I think it is actually, it's a reflection of what happens in Ugandan political parties, that the chairperson or the president of the party still most of the times doubles as a spokesperson of the party. Because we believe...
But also oftentimes, that individual becomes the party himself.
But Onen, if you can give me 1 minute.
Drake, allow me respond to these two. And with all due respect to your opinions, mine is a divergent view. And with respect to your political affiliation, DP is the most failed party, in my humble and respectful opinion. Because I understand that from the point DP chose to, okay, at a point it realized that the issue of going to ballot is never going to solve anything in this country. True, every other point would judge it at that point. But the apex of the judgment of its effectiveness and its brilliancy would be determined by the alternative it takes, having realized that this other option does not work. If we are talking about an MOU that has been signed today, we wouldn't have enough locus to criticize it. But this MOU has been in existence for, is it about 4 years now?
4, yeah.
4 years. We now have a point upon which we can be able to judge your party. If it chose to take a different alternative as opposed to the rest of the opposition parties, the question at this very point is, what has it delivered? Or are there any steps, is there any progress in regards to the line it chose
but
to
Emmanuel,
take? Still, just to continue on the same point, Reagan seems to disassociate the views of Norbert Mao from the views of the party. However, I find that erroneous. If I were to ask you, Reagan, which is the most reliable view can we take to represent the views of a party? Because a party speaks through its leadership. We would understand, for example, that what Museveni might say could reflect on the views and intentions of the NRM. Who then, if you say Norbert Mao, who is your president, what he says is only his views. Where then is the view of DP that we as citizens can be able to take if you show us that he is not the voice of the party? But also another thing, I wish to seek for clarity from the two of you. There seems to be a pro-Mao faction and a pro-Sebamara faction. I beg to seek for your alignment with regards to those two. Perhaps that would give me a better understanding of what informs your opinion and what your general political view could be. That would guide me and the rest of the panelists.
But as I listen to the conversation of the two people, and he was mostly sticking on the coalition, and he said that maybe they made a coalition with a person who is not trustworthy. I think before you come into a coalition, you should have looked at the percentages at which your ideas are matching, your ideologies. Before you come into understanding, you should have assessed before that if I made a coalition with Reagan, our ideologies going together, I needed to weigh how Reagan will sustain my being. Now, if we made a coalition and things are not working well, if you have a sound mind, you don't need to wait to make or let the party down. Now, you are trying to tell us that maybe the flag bearers for DP have not been announced or have not been elected due to the coalition.
No, that's not the case.
But, okay, wait.
I think it's about,
because we want to go for a break.
you'll give me 2 minutes.
But what do you think is the special interest of the party? Maybe the party has a strategy as to why they're delaying to bring in these flag bearers.
I think
Or there is another person
very
who has
quick
an
one,
interest.
as we run to the break. A very quick one is that I think from my I don't want to call it very little political experience, but from the time I've been deeply embedded in the politics of this country, both at institutional and national, supporting my friends, I think the reality of that coalition, that agreement, was to share power, especially between those who are closest to the President General, delegating most of them to East African community. The idea was, like in the documentation, you clearly see the ideas are there, but in the implementation, there is almost absolutely nothing. Because when you read, normally I don't want to oppose on day one. I usually want to, as a scientist, I want to first see how things happen. So, like how you throw stones in the bush, I said, okay, let me read through the agreement and wait for what happens. And literally nothing has happened, except coming up with very absurd reasons why we should continue with this agreement. To answer my brother's question of where do I fall, when I was at the university, I was a very dangerous politician, up to an extent that when I had to do the right sometimes, I would delay it to first see who is on the side of the wrong and who is on the side of the right. Now, in the context of who is with Mao and who is not with Mao, I chose to align with the principle of what does DP stand for, what does UIDY strongly beyond stand for. So I'm into mentorship of students, mentorship of the youth, into leadership politics. I do not on any one day want to associate with any of these top faces that they are trading, because at the end of the day, most of them, if you dig deep, they represent their individual ideas and individual interests.
Does that then raise the point that there doesn't seem to be a leader, at least in the top leadership of your party, who reflects the original principles of your party?
Let's have that conversation.
Currently.
Let's have that conversation when we just go for the break. I'll start with you, then we have that conversation and we shift gears.
Okay.
The conversation is getting quite interesting. I know there are very many questions you have to answer as to the multi-party dispensation. But also, just dissecting on DP's issue alone, we realize that almost every political party has issues. We have just only focused on one political party, that's DP. You have FDC with BFF. You have NUP that has come up with other babies as well. So it is a conversation that of course, is quite rich and quite broad. But of course.
But you see, Drake, before you go, just like the Bible says,
this
much is given, much is expected.
Of course.
If we want to make judgment of these political parties, the criteria and the spectrum upon which we make the judgment clearly differs. Talking about DP, we are talking about one of the oldest national political parties.
Sure. Let us go for a break. Let's go for a break. We'll come right back. See you in a bit.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the break. Just before we went to the break, we had a heated debate on the state of multi-party dispensation of politics in this country. But of course, as in this half of the show, we are going to shift gears and also talk about the tribute we need to pay to Raila Odinga, which I think is also a very interesting component to the show. But before we shift those gears, I want us to try and address concerns regarding multi-party dispensation. Kwesiga, you had just in 30 seconds, conclude what you are saying, and I get back to my brother here because he has issues to address with DP.
No, all I was saying is that if we were to judge these political parties dependent on what we should expect of them or what they should have delivered, the factor of time and the years for which they've been in existence is very crucial. So my point to them is that by virtue of their party being one of the oldest, and to this point having not taken any tremendous steps, either through the elections, which they first participated in all the time, and now taking another presumed to be important idea, which has equally not delivered completely, but instead split the party, that renders the party of no effect, and I do not know how best I can term it, but simply of no effect. So I do not think that these two, regardless of how much they maneuver, can have a viable and important defense they can put forward to their party.
You have a lot to talk about before we went into the break.
Yeah, I think I'll begin with Emmanuel. You know, Emmanuel is saying that DP, we being the, I should say we are the oldest party. Many people expect a lot from us. That's very right. But along the way, you've seen how politics has been, and we have not delivered. That's the fact. And now it is upon us to make sure that we find another direction for this party. The fact is, as per now, we have lost direction, and our party is no longer appealing to anybody. And as Reagan said, at time T, the young people are going to raise up, and this party will find track again. And my concentration is most about the CA because it is one that has completely drawn the party to unimaginable levels. Me, I was in Barara for the National Delegates Conference. Unfortunately, Reagan was not there. But whatever happened in Barara, you'd think those. I think I should be clear. There was no election in Barara. To be honest, there was no election in Barara. And whatever happened in Barara was, PG was trying whatever ways to make sure that he comes back at the helm of the party. Under all conditions, whether someone is dying, whether you're sleeping where, but as long as he comes back as the president of the party. And I can really ascertain that the CA was basically a personal interest. It was not in the interest of the party. Because I was in Barara and all the members were not okay with the agreement, and nobody was given a chance to show their dissatisfaction, because even the motions were not passed in a genuine way. In the normal process, when you have a motion like at school, you're given an opportunity to raise a hand and make your submission. But in Barara, it was not the case.
Okay.
Whenever you raise up a hand to say no to something that is not in their interest, they wouldn't allow you.
All right.
And before you say, Kanyama is standing on you, and you have nothing to see. Honestly, DP, the membership is not in agreement with the CA. The only person who is in agreement with the CA is the President and the Secretary General. Because surely, at this point, we are going to have nominations tomorrow, and you don't have the list of successful candidates, flag bearers. And do you know why? Ask me. The problem, the issue why we are not having the list as per now, me, as Emmanuel said, and as Reagan said, at this time in point, we don't have to say, I lie to this side, I lie to this side. What we have to put forward is DP, the values of DP, what I stand for, what the party stands for. Right now, why the list is delaying to come out, whoever associated himself with Sevamala is not going to be given the list, the flag bearer. However much you're strong on ground, however much you have all the favor that can help you to go through, you are not going to be given the flag bearer, the flag card, because they see you as some of us they call us that we are not in the party, but we are in the bush. Because whenever you come out to condemn the wrong thing that are going on, you're looked at as an enemy. Okay. And many people are going to miss out on the list because not because they are incompetent, but because they don't rhyme with was Honorable Mao wants.
All right. Reagan, I'm going to get to you. Reagan, as we shift gears, I would just like us to give our final assessments on really the current standing of all these political parties, DP, FDC, PFF. Your assessment. Yeah.
I don't want to be a judge in my own case, but I'm just going to be as human as possible. We only have one political party in this country as of late. Then all the rest are people fighting amongst themselves. In the past, we had an elegant FDC that thought that opposition is specifically us as a team merging our ideas against the NRM's idea. We saw occurrences like the FDC sitting down its candidate in Butambala for Mwanga Chivumbi to triumph and win that election. We have seen scenarios where His Excellency Chaguranyi Sentamu character assassinating members of the opposition themselves, even members of his party. You have seen in Mitiana where he said that Joyce Vagara, a member of parliament who has been on NUP ticket, a member of parliament who showed interest in the NUP ticket, was character assassinated by the president of the party. Said, oh, she should not come and lie to you. And this is a party with extremely no ideas. Extremely unfortunate. And you see, most of us who don't align with the ideas of this government in Uganda are left even with no option. We are hanging in space because even the options we have currently are extremely absurd. When you look at the common man's party, it is simply a common man, surely. You see, even when I was at Chambogo University, I never used to align with the idea of us calling ourselves common students. We are not common students. At a university, you don't call yourself common because there must be something unique about you that doesn't make you common. So when you look at the common man's party, even their symbol is simply evidence that they're a joke. You bring a Urusania, and at the end of the day, even on your nomination day, you're eating and sharing rice, that this is how we shall share this country. A country that gets its resources from a consolidated fund, which is out of pressing on multiple Ugandans with fines and taxes and where tax exemptions are given to people who already have. So, and you say this is a common man's party and this is what we align with, extremely no idea. As I wind up, then you look at FDC. Very unfortunate. My father is one of the founders of FDC from the former agenda. He's actually still contesting under PFF now. Man, you even don't know where this country is headed. But one thing I really want to appreciate is Museveni. I think if he passes on one day, may God forgive me for saying that, we need to have his brain in the museum, where you allow a multi-party and kill it yourself, because he has intelligently fished out the good elements to his side and left the wrong elements to jump from side to side. Because in 2021, when I used to listen to His Excellency Sentamu, he had brilliant ideas on most cases. And I later sat myself down and said, maybe it is because of the team of people that are behind him, the likes of Mpuga, the likes of Segona. These are Ugandans who think hard before they even say one statement. These are people who rarely succumb to the politics of emotions. The system of Rastafarian life pushed them out. And now look at the kind of people we are parading, where you find a contestant for MP who doesn't have ideas of a GRC at a university. A contestant for MP who wants to be part of an entertainment committee in the parliament, which even doesn't exist. And then when they come out to justify, you saw how she was trying to justify her statement. She said, no, me, I was not talking about Museveni's government. I want to be on the entertainment committee in the government of Chaguranyi, who is going to win. Extremely absurd. And you see, the problem is that all of these political parties that are against NRM tend to think that we don't have Ugandans who think. But we have a generation of young people between 25 and 35 who are the majority, who have attended school, who follow politics from an informed point of view. So I think going to the polls, many of us will be left with no option except voting people and not parties, simply because we have noticed that very many parties, there are parties where I have, and as an individual, have better ideas than them. And then you wonder, if a party which is an organization, a party which is aligned with very many people, legal teams, cannot even table channel. You have seen manifestos. They put out a manifesto, but when they reach an area, because they know that is what is going to excite the people, they start talking about ideas of fishermen. So if you're talking about fishermen and you go to a dry land in Gomba, what are you going to tell them? Will you tell them that I will water your grass or bring you a rainy season? So there is a manifesto which is never said anywhere. The politics we are running currently is excite the people, simply excite them, tell them some Rastafarian words, move on, come as Munyagwa, crack a few jokes, go away. Then the people we barely see. You see Estacia coming, announcing her candidature for presidency, performing on Museveni's nomination. Uganda is just a joke to most of these people. That is why I was saying, as I wind up in a minute, that we need to do away with the politics of jokers. We need to have the politics of, when you find that politics is more expensive and more lucrative than businesses in the economy, then you don't expect to have the right elements. When you find a party that fronts a musician in place of a certified lawyer whose track history is known, then that is a joke. I really pray that Ugandans can sieve through most of these people. I don't know whether everyone looks at Uganda the way I look at it, but when I look at our neighbors, when you look at what is happening in Kenya and the quality of leaders that is in Kenya and the quality of leaders, look at the parliament that was there before this, 9th, 8th, extremely intelligent people. Look at the current parliament where even the speaker insults members of parliament. Look at the current parliament where the leader of opposition tables ideas but with emotions. Look at the parliament where Winnie Chiza was the leader of opposition, and compare and contrast Winnie Chiza, Mathias Mpuga, and then Joel Senyonyi, where you're meddling and tabling ideas but with emotions, where you're forcing leaders in parliament to withdraw derogatory statements. So I think we have, in English, accepted that we have a multi-party system, which has really given us a lot of chances, even to the jokers themselves, to find audience on the political space. And I really pray that this economy, this country can be guided. I don't even think fasting may help us. We need to stand out and arise as people who think to chase these wrong elements out of our society. Otherwise, we are headed for doom.
Thank you. Anne, your assessment.
Okay. I have listened to the submission of His Excellency Reagan, and on his first bill, we say that we have only one party, and the rest are just supporters, or those that are just curtain raisers, which I look at as true, because when you look at the NRM system as a party which has conquered most of the parts of this country. If I give an example of my own area, that is Karamoja region, where it's a stronghold of this party, that makes then other parties as the curtain raisers. Yesterday, His Excellency Nandala was in Akapulprit and Moroto, where I saw the rally. It wasn't all that small. Why? Because people have bought the idea of the NRM party, and they believe that it is only NRM that can do for them, and they can follow that. And of course, when you look at, people always tend to follow the party that they feel like it's the one which is on the right path. You find that when that political party is there, all the people, including the young children, run to see what is taking place, to listen to the ideas. But one thing that I want to tell our people is that we are looking at these parties in different angles. We have looked at NUP. As the young people, most of them believe in NUP, of which I have not yet understood the ideologies in NUP party, and most times the NUP people tend to, to have violence, to have a lot of things. As he has said that the opposition leaders, even in parliament, they can bring the motion or they can bring ideas, but with emotions and with their, of course, when they're submitting, they come in with a lot of force, They feel like since they're opposition, they can order. They feel like things should be done there and then without analyzing the outcomes. Now, when I look at the party that I subscribe to, that is the UPC, when you look at the people inside the party, they don't have a common interest. These people have individual interest. That happens in all the parties, I believe so. Because if we had a common interest, we wouldn't have been denied to nominate a president or a party president to represent us at nationals. The rivals within the party has failed us to sort out what is supposed to be done. And I think the same happens to DP. They have failed to get a common term that let us do this and let's front this person. But because they have different interests, each one says, no, I should be the one. I should be the one taking. Reason is each person wants to earn for his own benefit or her own benefits, leading to the failure of the party.
Yeah.
And so that alone has killed the multipartyism or the multipolitics in our country, because if the parties are not prepared enough, we cannot move further.
Okay.
The parties need to be ready and show so that we can progress in planning on what next. Because when we're not ready, how then can we plan?
Thank you. Kennedy, your quick assessment as well, and then we get to Kwesiga to give us his comments on the same.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much, Mr. Drake, and how I wish I land on your achievements as the president, as a good president of Chambogo, and I compare it with the manifesto that you had, what you told the students, and in the long run, what you did to the students. Yeah, because literally in a political arena, to the higher extent, what we promise people, it's not what we achieve. And we tell people what they want to hear to win them in most cases, is though in the long run, we achieved some extent. But then, talking about the multi-politics in Uganda, talking about the NRM, I really am divert to you, Mr. Reagan, where you said that we don't have a multi-party system in Uganda, that we only have one political party.
We have one political party, and all the rest are a team against themselves.
Because I would like it if you said we have very many political parties, but NRM have outshined them. And those other political parties, they have the platforms. They have the platforms to come up and tell people what they have for the people. I've not seen His Excellency, the President, discouraging people from supporting other political parties. What he tells them in recent statement, listen to their manifesto. I had no but more of recent saying, let people table their manifestos and subscribe to what you think is fit for the what? For the country. But then the failure of DP, I'm also divert, it has not failed to reaching on this coalition, because they have NEC, and I think NEC, they sat and came to the conclusion. So I think out of brew, we cannot make a conclusion that DP is a failed party. No, not that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Emma, I want us to shift gears, but also want to pick your insights, because I know you have thoughts regarding your assessment on these political parties. But as you do so, I'd also like you to talk about, beyond politics, how do you think Raila Odinga shaped civic consciousness and citizen empowerment in East Africa?
Very precisely on the former topic for discussion, it is not very often that I find myself aligning to submission of usually many of the panelists I am with. But today, Reagan beats and wins my resolve. And with that, I find nothing important to add. So I should say in the legal terminology, you've spoken my mind. I hope that you keep this kind of a neutral judgment. I'd compare you to Ofono Pondo. Ofono Pondo is one of the people in the NRM that I love with all my spirit. Because it's one thing to subscribe to a party, but also to have your personal sense. It's disastrous that oftentimes people sell their sense to a political party they affiliate to and become slaves. How about reality? How about conceding? Just like he does. He doesn't affiliate to the NRM, but he speaks facts as they are, because this is reality. And there is no way we can make a shift in the trajectory or even in a political space if we do not acknowledge the weaknesses and, of course, give credit to the strength. So you've been, for me, I feel lectured by your submission. My brother did make a point. He said that sometimes, of course, which is often the case, alliances are part of the game of politics. And these are necessitated by given circumstances and situations that hand the status quo, the prevailing circumstances. Now, if the opposition is indeed opposition, the objective should not be about which opposition party has majority flag bearers or even actually position holders in parliament, but the objective should be about the larger picture, which is having majority of opposition from the of opposition MPs from the opposition political parties. That then would necessitate these alliances that he talks about. But that is where you find that you as NUP cannot liaise with the DP or any other or PPF to say that if we are to beat NRM here, let's all amalgamate our efforts and support this person. And for it is a competition of which opposition party fronts more members, then you are far away from achieving the goal of opposition. If you come every day and tell us you want to overthrow Manya Museveni, and yet you've even failed on the basics of outpowering him on the numbers that vote for yes and the contrary in parliament, you are far away from making any impact or even changing trajectory of politics. So I agree with you. So opposition is largely failed. Many of these seem to say that we have one strong political party in the country, but for me, NRM is not even a strong party. It rides on the bickerings and the weaknesses of the opposition itself. So it is only opposition that helps the NRM
To be strong.
to thrive and survive. So there is no vibrant political
It
party.
thrives
So
because the NRM has got to know their weaknesses.
Of
And
the
so if
opposition,
you know the
yes.
weaknesses of your
Opponent.
opponent, you're
Yes.
able to overcome.
that's for
overcome.
sure, and I
Yes.
agree with you. But at this point, we've not looked at the negative part of what effect or what it does to bring them down.
Yes, yes.
Because some of these weaknesses are caused by
the NRM
the
themselves.
NRM itself. So that is also a
But
fact.
I think that is
But
also a strategy.
of course, I agree with you. Yes, it is a strategy. But when now we talk about democracy, if we want to look at rule of law by Albert Venn and look at the separation of powers by Professor Montesquieu, then we would render NRM a very bad person, not even a strong
When
political
we have
party.
been sharing and we say that we don't see any multi-party system in our
In
country.
reality.
And so we don't need to go back and say if we do this, if we do this. So to us, we have agreed here that we don't see any democracy. So we have, I have believed that it is because the NRM has taken the advantage of other political parties. It knows its weaknesses, of which you have said that the NRM is the very cause of these weaknesses. You know, sometimes you trigger something to happen so that you can get
Use
what
that
you can use. So you throw a stone knowing that by the time it returns, I am already prepared.
Drake. Yeah.
Thank
Let
you,
us,
thank you.
shift the gears. All
Yes.
of us have to make a message about
Very
Raila
lastly,
Odinga.
Drake, on this same point. Thank you so much for your submission in regards to my take. Very lastly, still on the point of competency and fitness for purpose, as I would call it in the law of contract, fitness for purpose, which people are best suited for leadership. Today, the debate has been about elitism and populism seems to be taking the space. Because there has been a discussion which I feel has been perpetrated by the weak-minded, those that do not have mental competence, the notion of abasomye bakoze iki, those that speak English, what have they delivered? So there seems to be a downgrade of the mentally competent for failure, their own weaknesses are not delivering to people's expectations. Now, those that do not have the mental competence, those that do not have the English, for example, the language required for representation in parliament, are riding on that. But I think that also is a very weak and dangerous position that we are in. Regardless of how incompetent the otherwise potential competent would be, it's very disastrous for a country to shift to a trajectory where we want to have a bunch of the incompetent at the excuse of the intelligent people failing to deliver. You will get to a point where you have people who are far away from leadership capacities filling parliament, and that is disastrous. So that's also very dangerous for
Emmanuel.
our
Let's
country.
just hold there. Now, as we shift gears, I just want us all to make a message. Your quick tribute and reflection on Raila Odinga, because we're running out of time, and I want us, at least all of us, to have something to say about his impact in Kenya's democracy and East Africa as a whole, but also lessons as we can learn as a young country, but also as young people who want to push this democracy forward.
Thank you. I hope I do that very fast and once.
Yeah.
Now, talking about Raila Odinga, we talk about a man who has had an impact on the political spaces, not just of his country, but Africa as a continent. We talk about a man who has lived a life of alliances, a life of detention, a life of political iconism. I mean, there is a lot that we can talk about Raila Odinga. Of course, his background is that his dad, his father,
Jaramogi
Odinga was
the vice president.
Kenyan vice president, so he has a political background. We look at a man of strong resilience, of strong ambition, of strong determination, a man of unceasing fire. We look at a man who has stood for presidential office, I think 5 times, and lost. A few days ago, I was having a discussion with my colleagues, and I was telling them that Odinga has been the Chiza Vesige of this country. If there is anything we need to respect about such characters, is the element of ambition and determination and never letting go. An average person, you don't attempt 2-3 times and you still have the urge to. But he shows you, he's a symbol of standing out for what you believe in. We talk about a man who was, I think in 1982, arrested and put to, I think, committee maximum prison for 6 years. But his fire has still never ceased to burn. You look at a man who was, I think, I forget their terminology, but the Kiswahili word for the unpredictable one, a man who shifts alliances. We look at a man who has failed to conquer parliament, but who conquered the streets. We look at a man who has caused a lot of impact towards being an icon of mobilization, even when he never at any one point occupied the highest office, which he has vied for 5 times. So really for me, he's symbolic of democracy. He has been a champion of democracy for his country. There is really a lot to learn from him really as a continent. Because there is no, you'll talk about the jurisprudence and the democracy of Kenya, and his name stands for never, it's just close there. But away from the political impact, for me now at a personal basis, I watched his burial, his funeral arrangement the entire day. I sacrificed my day and watched everything, and a lot went through my mind. One, I looked at the beauty of Uhuru Kenyatta sitting beside William Ruto, a former president and a president. And for me, this did not seem like this is a country we neighbor. It looked like it is so far away from Africa. I mean, it was so beautiful, knowing that these people have occupied the same office, they are both still living and so served and handed over office to. It was so beautiful. I kept on reflecting and imagining, this must be so cute. For me, that was the biggest highlight for me. Former president and president seated next to each other. That was the best moment. But then lastly, as his casket was being lowered into the grave, and that is, of course, the very last time we saw anything to do with him, is I had a meditation of a question of what is going to be said of us at a point
when we are the ones
when we are being lowered. I looked at a man being lowered who has impacted on this continent for the last 40 years. And at 8 years, you and I can agree that even if you were to live more, there is not much more he could do. But the message in that is that for the time he has lived, he has done tremendously and served to his personal capacity. He has left nothing for death. He has exploited himself and done the best he could. The question to ask then, kept asking myself at a point I am being lowered, what is going to be said about me? A person who never became president, but who has accorded a state funeral with different dignitaries with a gun salute. As you could think this person has been a president before, which is not the case. That communicates to one thing, that even you actually, when you do not even hold a position, you can still outdo yourself and do better than a person who has even held a position. So for me, there is a lot we as individuals, let alone the politicians, you at an individual capacity, there is a lesson for you to learn. What is going to be said about you? What is the country or the nation going to miss about you? Of course, in the words of Robin Sharma in his book, Who Will Cry When You Die? So many people died. About 4 people still died when they were struggling to be able to access his dead body and view it. 160 of them were injured in a bid to try to struggle to get to where his body was, to see him for the very last time. That is not accidental. It communicates to who he has been to these people, even when he has never had a title of president of Kenya, but he has been the people's president, and he has outdone himself and served his purpose. Are we ever going to serve our purpose? Are we ever going to die for what we believe in? Are we ever going to sacrifice our all for the betterment of our country? Are we ever going to hold a principle and die for it and commit to it? These are questions that you and I, and of course the viewers, should ponder upon and ask ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Kennedy, your quick reflections.
My reflection about the tribute of Raila Odinga, I think Raila Odinga was the only of his kind among the politicians I have seen. Because you will realize that Raila Odinga, his intention was not all about becoming the president of Kenya, but seeing Kenyans in good terms. You can never mention 2 words about the democracy of Kenya and you forget that you don't mention the name Raila Odinga. I am told that Raila Odinga was actually 3 in 1. You could not meet Raila, tomorrow meet Amollo and Odinga. Here, I mean, his reactions towards the politics of Africa and Kenya could be embedded in him. If you can still see how he was accorded a state funeral. Samuel Ruto, His Excellency, his speech, even cried, and you imagine the president, this was his competitor, because deep down in the heart, he knows what Raila Odinga could do and what he really did when he was still alive. We saw that the reconciliation between Odinga, His Excellency Uhuru, and His Excellency Ruto at the National Prayer Breakfast in Kenya. And what does that one signify in the politics of Africa? And what does it portray to our country, Uganda? Which message does it send to Kenyans? If you see the love, the street people, I don't want to use the word common people, but the people of Kenya had for Raila Odinga, it is really, really, we have a lot to learn from Raila Odinga. If you can remember one of his statements that he saw the glory land, I don't know what it's called, but you will not get there. But you will get there when you're together. That is highest sense of collaboration. He was calling to the Kenyans. And how I wish in the next generation or today in Uganda, we can see our current president and other political leaders sitting on the same table, sharing ideas to liberate our country, to help our people. It's not that we are liberated, but at least we have a lot to learn from our neighbor. Like my friend have said, it's like as if Kenya is not neighboring Uganda. It's like even Kenya is not in Africa. If we can have the same sharing between our top leaders, if the message can reach the president, I believe he watched the funeral and he was part of it.
Thank you.
So I pray we have this in our country, Uganda.
Thank you.
I thank you.
Thank you. Anne, in 60 seconds, we're running out of time, please. Your tribute and reflection of Raila Odinga's life.
Thank you so much. Raila Odinga Amollo, may his soul rest in peace. To me, this particular man we are talking of, or we are talking about, is a man that has been an eye to most of the young people and also the elderly people, not only in Kenya, but in Africa. As the previous speakers have said, that you can't say of anything about Kenya without mentioning the name Raila Odinga, to me, I look at Raila Odinga as the real typical role model of the young people that shapes people to be who they are, not because others are or others are doing. But to him, he did all the things that he thought he could do to make Kenya be a good country and to be a powerful country or a nation. And not only Kenyans, but all the Africans. Because when you look at his deeds, his acts, they were not only portraying to remain within Kenya, he did it openly. As a leader, he made sure that everyone is being engulfed in one state or in one place, and each one should be looked as important, not underlooking at others. So this has been a man that has been uniting, that has been bringing peace. When we reflect on the issues of the reconciliation, the handshake that he did with Uhuru, that alone reflects forgiveness, and that sustains the nation. And he has died in a battle, just like King Saul in the Bible. He will live, or he will be remembered in the history of this world. Not only in our generation, it is already documented in the books of his acts or of his deeds, and so he will be remembered. Okay. Now, to me, the lessons that I pick from Raila Amollo Odinga, I feel like, where can I even start from? I remember when I was contesting for the JRC non-resident during the time of His Excellency Reagan. We were all in the battlefield. But my motto was that going out and coming in for the people. What does it mean? I mean that even when there is a gap, I don't need to wait for the leaders to come and do what is supposed to be done. I should be able to take the initiative and do and fill in the gap. And this is what Raila Amollo was doing. He never waited for the leaders to advocate for the people, but he went ahead to advocate for them. He went ahead to fight for them, for their rights, for their freedom. So with the youth of Uganda, I in person, let's not wait for our presidents, let's not wait for our leaders to tell us, let's do this, but let's come in willingly and do what we can be able to do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Reagan, in 60 seconds.
60 seconds. I'm going to count them.
We'll count for you.
Man, it's hard to talk about a great man in 60 seconds. But since we are not going to spend the entire day here, I'll try to be as brief as possible. My biggest political motivation in the history of Uganda is Dr. Kizza Besigye. At least over time, I have learned to accept that we have a generation that is phasing out, and we didn't have to lose at least a touch of their leadership. Man with the biggest number of arrests internationally, but still stuck to the cause. Had the so-called Masanyaraze in his time, but he still had the time for those who are not members of FDC, but he believed they were the right people. I don't know whether you get my argument. Look at the kind of leader he is. This is someone who has what it takes to say, I'm away from politics and survive. And at the end of the day, he still shows up, but with the same belief that, no, this is what democracy should look like. When I followed closely, I follow the right people. I usually sieve through. I have a very thin line through which I don't give my marks just easily. So when I followed Raila, I've been following, I think, for 7 to 8 years, very closely. Even how he associated with the East African Students' Union, with those of Okori, you could clearly see the very big difference between Uganda, and Kenya. In an election where Ruto had 50.89 and Raila had 48.85, that was war. If that happens in a Ugandan context, it's war. I won my opponent in Chambogo with 270 votes. But that was a very small margin. I can tell you it was war for me to be declared. But this is a Raila who loses this election, still provides room to share his ideas with a person that beat him in such a tight race. And in such a tight race, because an election can never be free and fair, you expect this person to be highly disgruntled, to say, no, I was cheated, let me come back, let me cause mayhem. But he didn't. I think we need our politics, especially one nomination fees should be like 1 billion. But we need to do away with jokers, because 20 million is very little money. Any joker can cocoon people and they pay it, and still you will have funny people parading themselves as leaders. You look at Uhuru, you look at Raila, biggest economy influencers. Raila had very big businesses that pay. Uhuru is one of the biggest owners of Brookside, one of the biggest companies in East Africa dealing in dairy products. So you look at the kind of leaders that Kenya pushes forward to lead their society, who may not even feed from the society. They may not even need taxpayers' money to spend on their families. But look at Uganda. I think Raila and the story of Kenya is a story that we all need to see. And I think the only thing that I will always admire from my son, if God gives me one, is the fact that he may see that Uganda. I'm praying that he sees that Uganda, where a former president and the current president are seated right next to each other, and they have no problem with each other. I saw a national prayer breakfast where Raila, Ruto, and Uhuru came and apologized to each other. That cannot happen in Uganda. Maybe if you shoot most of these people, but I doubt they can. Where in a Uganda, where the biggest opposition leader says Nze Museveni sibonga nawe, but in the context where you need things done, you may need to compromise on some of your values, so, like Raila did on multiple occasions. So it is a story for us to read, a story for us to reflect on, a story for us to take very seriously and very personal. And if we have to build a society of intentional people, we need to emulate the Railas and not these elements that parade themselves around our society. And we just pray that God can really judge him fairly.
Sure.
Can judge him fairly, and may his soul rest in peace. But he was an icon that most of us shall always emulate, especially those of us who believe in logical leadership. You know, anyone can be a leader. Anyone, even you see, I usually clash a lot with people when I say that even fools grow and we have old fools around in society. But that's the truth.
Yeah.
So when you have a society of old fools parading their wrong ideas around, everyone has an idea. Even the wrong idea is an idea. So those who believe in logical leadership, like myself, Kwesiga, and others, we pray, and Wamono, we pray that we parade and champion a society that is like that of Raila. And my last lesson, like the biggest thing I learned from Raila, is that just don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't.
Keep pushing.
He must have even fought on his deathbed. Because you see in the daughter's speech, he said that day he walked a distance almost 5 times what he used to on the previous days. So this is a fighter we shall always think about, shall always read about, and we pray that we have many like those in our society, and we shall be a better society. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
I hope yours is 60 seconds.
Yeah. I
It has gone
think
120.
a lot has been talked, and
Yeah.
you know, one of the biggest inspiration of my brother Reagan is Dr. Xavier, and Emmanuel was saying that we should change the narrative of saying that we should shift the leadership from the elite to the average. To the average. But even Doctor himself once said that the most people who have disappointed him in Uganda are elites.
Yeah, sure.
And the most useless people in Uganda. Doctor said it, and he's an inspiration to all of us. I think we should look at it in different angles. But back to Raila. Raila has been a big inspiration. We're here discussing about multi-party democracy. But if you look at Kenya, if you look at Kenya, he was actually a strong pillar.
It was the reason why it came about.
Yeah, it was the reason as why it came, yes. It actually, when you read, it said that it took him almost a decade to achieve it. And he didn't give up on it. Raila has been a big inspiration to most of us, and he has always stood out. You know, even when he has lost, he has always come again and coming again. And it goes back to what I say, that coalitions themselves sometimes try to bring in order when societies are going astray. You remember just of recent that he had to have a consensus with the president, because now the citizens were the country was about to erupt, and the only solution was to have a coalition, and the 4 members of his party were put in government, and these followers didn't like it, but for him, he said, "I've done it for the sake of harmony and for the sake of the country." And in Uganda, you cannot get many people who have such a mind. I really just wish that God can judge him fairly.
I think we have those people in Uganda.
We have, but look at them.
The time I think Uganda's time is almost.
Raila was
but Onen, we have to go back again. Achieving the democracy that we admire in Kenya, it was not on a silver plate. People had to die.
Came at a cost.
Yes, at a cost. And some extent, I think Uganda, we would also go through that to achieve democracy.
We have seen one coalition here in this country, and it looks like political suicide. So even our society is not that much receptive to ideas. So we just pray for his soul to be judged harshly, but he was a hope to a hopeless society. Like Uganda currently, I think we have the biggest hopeless society. Very many people. That's why you see leaders, even on rallies, channel ideas of, even if we die, we die. Who are you telling to die?
Let's hold the conversation there. But thank you, guys. This has been a very fulfilling and very informative conversation. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Reagan. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Kennedy. And thank you, Emmanuel, for joining us in this conversation. Personally, I've learned a lot, and you guys have made my job very easy. I barely had to ask very many questions. You did the talking, and you offered very great insights. To our dear esteemed viewers who are religiously always following the Youth Roundtable, thank you very much for watching. And of course, don't forget to drop your comments in the comment section, subscribe to the channel, and always constantly follow the content. But to Center for Constitutional Governance for giving young people a platform on Civic Space TV, thank you as well. But as well to you, our dear viewers, once again, thank you, and I'll see you next week, same time, same place. My name is Douglas Pekonem. Bye-bye.